So I had a friend that owned this car lot that got him an $800 Chevy Malibu.
Yeah.
Okay. He drove the balls off that thing.
Oh my God,
driving
bro.
because that was when you guys had to
he
do
let
door to
somebody
door.
wreck it.
Yeah, he let somebody wreck it.
He let like 3 people wreck it. Actually,
3 people wreck it. Yeah, but people look at him now and see like the McLaren, the Ferrari, like all the stuff he has now, the crib, and they don't see that.
They don't see
that.
That's it. So he's another one. When you reference me like locked in, he had to be even more locked in because of his personality type. I was extroverted.
Yeah,
Brody was and still is an introvert. So for him to figure it out and be self-sustainable, because there's a lot of guys that just go out there and flex their money and be like, I'm hiring.
Yes.
Brody spent his first 3 years
like that.
Bro, he's still like that. And it's kind of like, maybe something that Frank instilled into you guys, where it's like, you can still get your hands on the wheels. Oh, man, I think we're live. So we got another episode of Adversity King. Special guest that I've been asking for years. We finally made it happen. Chad Evanson, how are you?
I'm great, man.
Glad
to be here.
Bro. Flew down from Pittsburgh. What's the weather like in Pittsburgh right now?
It's a little chilly, but you know what? I like it that way because you could feel like you get some work done.
Yeah.
And then like you're not, like you could get home, take a nice little walk, you know, and then.
Yeah, because the extreme, I guess Pittsburgh isn't extreme with weather, but when you're working with the wheels, I would imagine.
It gets hot.
Yeah, it gets hot in there.
It gets hot, and in the wintertime, it gets cold.
Which one would you rather have? Super cold or super hot?
I like it when it's cold because when you're working, because I
you'll
like to
warm
do a
up
little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So when you're working, you can actually get warm.
Yeah.
So, like when it's hot and you're doing both, there's 8. So we have heat, back in the garages, but like AC is only up in the offices, and I don't spend too much time there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. So when did you get into the wheel business? You said 25 years?
25 years. So I started in high school. I actually started working for sweeping the floors in a warehouse for a guy that had a wheel company.
Wow.
And just always really liked cars. Like cars was my favorite thing.
What got you into cars though? Was it like Fast and Furious?
No, honestly, it was like Knight Rider, Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard, so hard.
That was big.
I'd love to get a big car with a Confederate flag on it.
Yeah, right. I never did that, but I always like that.
Kanye.
Yeah, I know. Kanye's like I heard went off the rails a little bit.
I love the song. I showed my girl, she's Jewish, and she's like, "What is this?" The Hail Hitler song.
I didn't even know about it till the other day.
Yeah,
because the wheel shops, like the barber shop.
Yeah.
So like everybody comes in there and everybody spills their drama.
Yeah.
So like. That was the first thing somebody said the other day, and I was like, and Eric. Eric's like,
I was just gonna ask about Eric.
We got to have Eric on the podcast.
I was literally sitting here thinking, like, where's Eric?
Eric is like the king of like starting the whole chaos.
Yeah.
Even though he's like
quiet,
and really smart, and Eric of all people, he's the one that's got all his stuff together.
Yeah.
So he's like that silent killer, and then like he gets everybody riled up. And then it's so funny.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
That's a great skill set to have. It's just kind of like being that silent instigator. It brings.
But here's the thing: Eric brings so much to the plate there because he is the smartest one there.
Oh, dude!
So
I mean,
like
I
always say to people always look at me and they like, okay, like I'm the the person. They always think that I'm like. They always be the first to ask me like, hey, how did you get so successful? I'll tell somebody the first thing was him.
Yeah.
Like when I started my own business.
Yeah.
Like because without him, it's like, here's the deal. I don't care if Michael Jordan hates Scottie Pippen now.
Yeah.
He cannot discredit like what they brought together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Facts.
So that's the same thing with Eric. Eric's the most solid person as it comes.
You know, that reminds me of when you're describing all this is Brody.
Yeah, 100%. My brother. Well, my brother and I, we grew up that way.
Yeah. Like, bro, you're not that loud. You're not loud, either. But Brody's definitely not loud. Super quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like the Scottie Pippen. You remove him from the team, then there's no championships.
There's no championship.
There's no championships at all.
And nobody understands that. That's the key thing. Is the team. Nobody understands that.
Not at all.
No one ever understands
It's
that.
actually the smarter role to play because when you're the quiet killer, you don't get sued as much.
100%. I've had lawsuits. I've had
When you're the face, people are like, that's a billionaire.
I've had a number of a lot of things. I think you remember back in the day when I had my car situation.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, people look at you because you can get the most recognition, and you can, you know, like, people realize like, oh man, he's got this or that, but you take the biggest risks.
Yeah. And I think that simultaneously it's a combination of taking the bigger risk, but also just being patient with just starting sweeping the floors. You know what I mean?
I learned, so that's the thing. I started sweeping the floors, and then I got into that's why I feel like so many people always ask me like, how do they want to get into the wheel business and do like the same thing I do. And that's why I think it fails.
Yeah.
Because like
people want to skip levels.
People don't understand the part. They just look at things now.
Yeah.
They don't look at, they come to my house or see my cars or whatever and see the business and see, you know, the business we do. And they're like, how do you sell all over the country? And we even have a customer in Dubai. Wow. And it's like, people always say like, you know, how did that, they don't understand it started from like sweeping the floors. And I actually learned that from when I got into the business. I started for a guy in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And then in 2004, right out of college, I went to a place, because I did it all through college. And then I went to a place called Star Wheel Group, which he was based out of Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
Okay? Which RJ Starr was the owner. Todd Starr was his brother. They basically invented the wheel. Okay, so like anybody other than Dico Salane, who owns Giovanna Wheels, there's a couple people that if they
would that be the wealthiest like wheel owner, or like what about the guy that invented the Forgiato? Or
so the guy that owned AC and Norm that did Forgiato, they're very successful, great people. I'm friends with both of them.
Okay,
awesome business people. But Dico that owns Giovanna, and RJ Starr and Todd Starr, like the Starr family, they invented they had what was called Player Wheel Group. Okay, so Player Wire Wheel, which back in the day, if you had players or you had limiteds or you had like stuff like that, you were the man. Like, because back in like the early, like late 90s, if you had 20s, you were the man.
So what's been like the evolution of wheels?
So wheels, I think, started like even in the 80s, like rap videos. Like,
weren't they just big spinners in the 80s?
No, spinners didn't get popular till like
maybe the
mid 2000s.
Okay,
and it actually was a great thing until a lot of cheaper companies started doing like where it was like a bolt on. And it just looked tacky. Yeah. But like, I wish somebody would bring back the original Davin, which was like the original Spreewell, like Luttrell Spreewell. Yeah. He actually partnered with a company, Davin. Yeah. And that was awesome. But no, my point of that is like, the biggest thing that I learned from like working for a big company like that, like the Starr family, and I worked for another guy, Josh Helfer, who basically gave me my shot in the wheel business. Okay? Yeah. And probably the best salesman I've ever met as far as salespeople. Yeah. Okay. And I say that because you're one of the best I've ever seen too. Yeah. So like the first time I met you, I'll never forget, I came over, not to get off track, but I came over to see my brother. Okay. And you were like 18 years old. And the thing that I remember with you, me and Eric came over to see Brody, and you were in the corner of that building. Okay. And everybody else was jerking around. It was like late at night. Yeah. And I remember you guys would like leave at 9. Yeah. And I remember like, that was when you guys had the door knock.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
In which the young crowd now that I'm seeing, you know, they get all cocky with their sales skills. To me,
they don't know shit.
They don't know shit.
Yeah, they don't know shit.
Like, you got to be face to face with somebody, develop people skills. Yeah. You know, that's the biggest thing. Yeah. I remember, and Eric and I talked about it to this day. We remember we come in there and everybody else was like jerking around. They had stopped like an hour ago playing ping pong upstairs and whatnot. I remember you were in a corner and you were like, you were like that guy. Did you ever see the movie Pursuit of Happiness? Yeah. With Will Smith. Yeah. And the biggest part of that movie, whenever everybody else he had to make more phone calls than everybody else. Yeah. Because he had like to take care of his. Like, I remember you were taking care of your mom. Like, you were doing a bunch of stuff. And I was like, I remember I left there because I was big into like when I met you that time, that's when I started to get pretty successful.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to learn like things.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Eric, I said, this dude is going to have it.
Yeah.
Like, and there's very few people that have the it, and you had it.
Yeah.
Because like people, when they stopped, you literally were like that Will Smith from Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
And you literally were calling up until everybody had to kick you out.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. The good old days. But in everybody's own way is like, figuratively speaking, that's sweeping the floor. You know what I mean? And,
well,
and
that's
you're more than grateful for it. Cause you're not even like everybody has like this cocky, delusional, like arrogance of like, they deserve to own the shop right away.
Right. 100%. You don't want it. Yeah. They don't want to own the shop right away.
Like
I remember, listen, the first thing I
just want to be in the shop.
Right.
You know,
the first thing I learned with the Starr family. So Chris Starr, who was the owner's son, and you know this from like other companies, usually the owner's son is the spoiled brat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the owner's son, Chris Starr, he's actually, I think he's still in Pompano Beach.
Okay.
He is, he invented, like, off-road wheels now are pretty big.
Okay.
So he developed his own brand. It's called Hardcore Off-Road Wheels.
Okay.
And he became really successful, and he's my age. And I have so much respect for Chris because him and we started at the lowest point. His dad could have made him like
other guys have inherited their shops.
No, he did not.
He didn't have to.
Dude, I'm telling you, I remember in Ohio, because he would come up, he was in Pompano, okay?
Yeah.
And his dad was like, I'm not going to let him work out of here. I'm going to let him come work out of the one in Youngstown. Because I used to drive an hour back and forth to work every day for years.
Yeah.
Okay, on the turnpike. And Chris Starr, we had to unload containers. Like when they'd come over from China, okay, I'd unload the containers. And Chris Starr and I, dude, it'd be -5, -10 degrees.
Bro, there's nothing worse than that. I remember working at UPS in high school, and you're working in a trailer and you're lifting, and it's either extremely hot or extremely cold.
Right.
And they both suck.
Yeah, and that's why those are the things. And then I went from that, so I learned that part of the business.
Yeah.
Then I went into mountain and balance and wheels.
Yeah.
And then like knowing part numbers, picking part numbers off of like if you had to pick an order, because we'd ship orders out of state.
Yeah.
And then I finally, in 2006, one guy quit. And I remember me and the owner's son, we went in and we said, we want to do sales.
Yeah.
And I said, I was always pretty good talker. So I was like, I want to get into sales.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing.
Where would you go? Like, what's a blessing in the life insurance space is we're all, whether you buy leads or you're provided leads, people are providing you humans. When you pretty much do any other business and you're in sales, nobody provides you leads. You have to go find them.
Yeah. So what I had to do was and this was before like Instagram.
Yeah.
I think MySpace was it.
Yeah.
But nobody really promoted themselves on social media. So what I did was I'd go to the store and I'd buy like magazines, that had like car shops, like lowrider magazines and stuff. And then I'd go to because we were the wheel manufacturer, okay? So we were like the main plug of like that brand, okay? So I remember going to like all the big online companies like Super Buy Tire. A big, massive wheel guy is Kevin Emerson. He's probably, so if you wanted to ask me, this is the biggest guy in the business. He owns, it's called Rim Source Motorsports. Okay?
Where's he based out of?
He's out of Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
And here's the problem. Like in my business, I'll tell it how it is. Like a lot of people, they always want to think they're the man. I think that I'm like mediocre.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I do. Like a lot of people like build me up, but I consider myself mediocre in my business.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people that I really, really think are like the big dogs that nobody ever would give credit to because they're too chicken shit to say it how it is.
Yeah.
And they always want to think they're the best.
Yeah.
And you're not. You know? There's a lot of people that.
What do you think separates that though? Like how what are they doing?
How did like they get so big?
Yeah.
Risk taking.
Yeah.
I mean, I think me and Kevin are like really, really great friends. And I think I don't even think he graduated high school. I think he dropped out in 9th grade.
Wow.
And, in Baltimore, that's a rough city.
That's rough, yeah.
Rough. And he built everything.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing. Like, you got to take that risk. Everybody sees like the end result and sees like the glamorous times.
Yeah.
But nobody sees like when your bank account's negative, whatever.
Yeah.
Whenever
taxes and all types of crazy shit.
Nobody understands that.
And taking that leap of faith to like, because essentially this last transition over the last year of my life is like, if you were to relate it to wheels, is I'm working in another wheel shop. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, what if I go try to make my own wheel shop? And even to this day, we're 4 months in, production's going great, we're making money, we're breaking even, which is incredible for 4 months in. Usually you're just losing money. But people, I think the biggest thing that stops people from going out and making their own shop is they just always are like, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail?
Right, that's the biggest. Well, that's the risk you have to take.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. That's what I ask people. Do you want everybody to look up to you, and do you want to be the one that everyone? I love when someone comes to me for like advice or like a problem that they need to, like, okay, who do you know that can help me out here? Or, or Chad, like there's like a wheel that there's customers that didn't even buy something from me.
Yeah.
And like, I can help them out with something.
Yeah.
It's just the power of that just always taking care of somebody.
Yeah.
Because people never understand the biggest thing that I'm going to tell your young, because I know you have a big young audience. Okay. I remember the biggest thing I learned in my business is you never know who someone's going to become. Okay.
That is true. Or who do they know?
Yeah. Okay. And you could think that you'd be talking to somebody that you're like, this dude. Here's the thing. Like, I think the young audience, they look at all we were just talking about Wes Watson, people like that, which I respect their hustle.
I respect cash.
I do. I do. I respect their hustle, but they truly, to everybody, they look like they're the man.
Yeah.
Okay. So people are intimidated to, like, they don't know how to say something to them. There's people that make those people feel this big.
That big, bro.
Because there's a guy that comes into my shop that the first time I met him, okay, let me tell you, this is a 2-minute story.
I know this guy probably, right?
Yeah. Bob Casey.
Oh, okay. I thought I was thinking of another guy.
Okay. There's many people that I've met, okay?
Yeah.
So Mr. Casey, he called me. I was going on a cruise, and I always say, hey, you know what? I'm always taking calls. Like, even my girlfriend.
You're always taking calls,
my girlfriend, we were on the way here, and I'm always
closing a deal.
Yeah, closing a deal.
Yeah.
Like, you're always closing. Like, that was my biggest thing. Always be closing.
Yeah.
And if you're not closing, you're gonna have to deal with problems.
Yeah.
Deal with the problem. Always be in communication with the customer.
Yeah.
Okay, and client.
If you're not closing, you're taking it deep.
Right, you're taking it deep. Right. So, anyways, I was going on a cruise, and I see this phone call, and I remember everybody was yelling at me because I was like literally waiting in line but I paid for this like Star Suite, on Royal Caribbean. And I'm like, man, I paid for all this stuff. I was like, I'm gonna sit there and take my time and take this guy's call. I literally was sitting before the security scanner for an hour talking to this guy. Here he tells me he's 70 years old, just lost his wife, was never into wheels. He was like, hey, I just bought a car. I was on the golf course talking to Mr. Bazzi, Richard Bazzi, Schultz Ford.
Yeah.
He's like a big, he's probably one of the Ford kings.
Yeah.
Okay. So once again, I got referred by him, okay, who was another big name.
Yeah.
So this guy was like, hey, I'm buying this Lincoln, and I really don't know if I want wheels on it. Can I come down and talk to you? And this is when we had that little shithole. Because when I first opened my business, I had no investors. Like a lot of people that get into the things.
Holy shit, you had no investors.
I had 0 investors. I had nothing. I didn't have a credit line. I didn't have a credit card. Nothing. I was scared to death. And the only person that made me take the leap of faith was Alex. You remember my friend Alex Rada?
I was going to ask him. He's the one that told me the Jaguars.
Alex.
How are they doing? Are they still up wherever?
Yeah, Alex, he has that place in Augusta.
Yeah.
Okay, where he is one of the biggest entrepreneurs, like up and coming entrepreneurs you can meet. He has a big bar down there. His business.
We're talking about the same guy, right?
Yeah, his business mindset is just.
What nationality is he again?
Romanian.
Okay, yeah.
You met him when we went for Brody's.
He sold me a Jaguar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you're thinking of Alex. You're thinking of different Alex.
Oh, okay.
But Alex Rada, you met him when we went to. When we were down here to look at Brody's Lamborghini, when he got the new Lamborghini.
Oh, okay.
He's from Romania. Remember, he had the steak. We went to the restaurant.
Yeah.
He's he is probably the one that made me take the leap of faith.
Okay.
Because I didn't have the balls.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, sitting there, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do it. Because like I said, I had no investors.
Yeah,
okay?
bro.
Like a lot of people, and I think that's another reason why I did not fail. Because you don't have anybody.
You have way more investors are like security.
Right. It's
you
like,
got like
it's
this
like
cushion.
a baby blanket.
Yeah.
Okay. So like there's a guy up in Pittsburgh right now, like, you know, like there's several people that like I don't name drop, but like I think that he has great talent, but I think people get into the wrong situation because when you have an investor come in, like I had dude, at the time, because when I started my own business, like I said, 98 was when I started in it. Okay. Like sweeping the floors.
Yeah.
2011 is when I decided, you know what? I'm going to take this chance. I'm going to go on my own. Actually, Alex was the one that pressured me into it.
Yeah.
You know? And I did that. But I started in this little garage, no heat, not a single window. We didn't have a sign, nothing, like a 1-car garage. Okay. And then we built a multi-million-dollar business out of there after like 10 years.
Holy
but
shit.
the thing was no credit cards. No, like literally, I remember scared to death. Like when a set of wheels came in, like you had to flip money to pay this, to pay that. But now everybody, like they sit there and they have like these investors and they don't understand the concept of like, you know, that's really not a way of starting a business. You know, like those investors, like it's a security blanket.
Yeah.
You know, but then here's the thing, believe me, those investors, they want their ROI, return on investment. So like, you know, sooner or later, the chickens are going to come home to roost.
Yeah,
and
literally.
Like those investors that you think are your friends, they're not your friends.
Yeah.
You know, when it's your money, you know, when you hit big, like it's like winning the lottery. When you hit big, you could sit back and smile, you know, because you don't have to answer anybody.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's been a ride. But 2012 is when I started, and like no investors, no nothing.
So 2012 is when you started your own shop.
Like 2011, 2012, I started on my own thing.
Wow. And then I started with Brody. He hired me in 2017. It was like September 2017. So that's 5 years in. So 5 years in is when you started to experience
like really
a little bit of a break.
So what I started doing was like I said, so the Star family was big to me, but Dico that owns Giovanna Wheels, he gave me my biggest break.
Yeah.
Because he saw, so his biggest thing, that guy, is loyalty.
Yeah.
Like he told me a story one time that he fired one of his employees for cheating on his wife.
Wow.
Yeah, because the way, you know what he told me? He actually said, because like I remember when I was actually at SEMA when he fired the guy.
Yeah.
Okay? And it was his biggest salesman. Okay. And we were at a party and the salesman was sitting there talking about how, and it was his biggest earner, like Dico's biggest earner. So that's the last person you want to get rid of, right?
Yeah.
His thing was he was sitting there telling a story about last week cheating on his wife that was pregnant. Okay.
Wow.
And, you know, I'm young. So like, you know, you hear that story and you're, you know, listen, if any guy that's going to sit there and say they listened to that story and didn't laugh or whatever, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Okay?
Facts.
So I sat there and laughed. Dico looked at the guy like he was pissed. And he was like, you know what? Pick up your stuff and get out of here. And I was like, I thought he was joking.
Yeah.
And he wasn't joking. And the point of that was, he said, you know what? And I said, you really just fired him over that story? He's like, if he could cheat on his wife, then he could steal from me.
Yeah.
I never took it. I never understood it that way.
Yeah.
Like so that Dico gave me my break.
Wow.
I stayed loyal to him. And to this day, I do a lot with a lot of people still, like a lot of other companies, but he's the one I look up to the most.
Yeah.
Just because that guy, he's the guy that did it in the wheel business. And when people look at like, you know, all these like these people that they're looking up to, go on his page, like Dico Salane from Giovanni. That guy really he's literally Ferrari's like biggest client.
Where's
like
he based out of?
California.
Oh, okay.
Newport Beach.
Newport Beach is nice.
Yeah. He's Orange County.
Wow.
But he has properties all over.
Yeah.
And that guy is the guy. Like if you want, like I remember when I was trying to get a loan, so back in 2019, I took advice from somebody and I was like, you know, I'm gonna buy that building that I'm in now in Wexford, which was the best thing that I've ever done.
Yeah.
When I did that, again, you know, like when you have no investors, no money behind you,
Yeah.
you know, when you go to the bank, they're like, okay, what's your trade lines? You know, like who can we talk to that can vouch for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I really didn't have anybody to take this big loan on, you know, other than like little trinkets, like whether it be American Express,
Yeah.
like companies I did good business with, but not to do like building loans. And
Yeah.
I actually applied for what was called an SBA loan,
Yeah.
which was like probably the hardest like real estate loan you could get for commercial, because it's through the government and it's like with like a 2.8% interest rate.
Yeah.
But it's like impossible to get. Okay. Deco Selene wrote me like a letter, like a personal letter from his, like he's like a big like guy with like Bank of America too, from being in the business for so long. And he wrote me a personal letter. The one of the people, the finance managers from Ferrari of America, wrote me a personal letter. It was pretty cool.
Damn.
Like, you never know. But back to like the story with the guy with when I was on the boat, like getting ready to go on the cruise, you never know anything. Okay, right? So I was on a cruise, getting on a cruise, and he says, you know, I just lost my wife. I've never been in the wheels. Can I stop down and see you guys? So we stop down. He stops down the next day when I get back from my vacation. Looks just like an old dude, like just like clean cut, but like driving this like, I think it was like a Chevy Impala at the time, you know, like whatever. And he's like, yeah, I just got the new Lincoln Continental. When the new Lincoln Continental came out, like in 2018, I think it was. And he's like, I want to get these. So I show him a set of wheels. Usually a guy like that, I show him a set of wheels and you tell them they're $12,000. And usually somebody like that, their first set of wheels, they're like, no. Well, he was like, you know, oh, okay, I'm going to go with those. He's like, you know, we've spent 2 hours with him. You know, me and Eric talking to him, showing him around the shop. He was impressed. Okay. Well, again, I never asked him like what he did or who he was, you know? So the next day, I'm sitting there and I'm just doing my job like normal. And he pulls back in. And I'm thinking, because he's bringing me the money for the wheels. Okay. And I'm like, he's going to come in and say, hey, you know, let's look at like a $2,000 set of wheels, $1,000 set of wheels. That $12,000 set of wheels was like out of my price range, you know? No. That guy comes in, he hands me an envelope. And to this day, he hands me an envelope and it felt like, it was like silk paper, okay, the envelope, okay? And it had like this letterhead on it. And then I open it and there's like a handwritten letter, like, thank you, Chad, for spending all the time with me. You know, I really appreciate this and like the knowledge you gave me from and with the full check, full amount. So then, you know, Google these days, you could look somebody up. Here, this guy owns, so you know Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. It's like one of the biggest, most prestigious universities in Pittsburgh, you know, like smart people. He owns all the property that university's on. Okay. Wow. He owns, it's Duquesne, not Duquesne Light, Duquesne Electric. Okay. And he owns like 40 some Marriotts. Okay. Never knew it. Never knew it. Dude's probably a multi-billionaire with a B. Yeah. And like, anytime I've ever needed advice or anything, when I bought my new building, that's another guy. I needed a letter of recommendation for the bank right there. Okay. Wow. Then I needed something. So when I bought my building, you know, like it was like a building from the 80s, but it was nice. Yeah. He walked in, he had nothing to gain from it. He saw this all electrical system, an old electrical system. He was like, hey, I'm going to send my guy down, you know, update some things, inspect some things. Didn't even charge me. Just to this day, like, you know, like those are the people you never know who somebody is and who somebody knows, and they can change your life. Literally.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the connections you develop, like you think of like barbershop and like all the stories, connections.
It's so true. It's like the wheel shop.
The wheel shop is like the 10X version of the bar. Because a barbershop, you never know, but like wheels are a little more expensive. So your likelihood of running into individuals that are higher caliber, it goes up. That's nuts.
Dude, the caliber of people, it's so funny because it can range from.
Oh, dude, I've met the
You've
craziest.
Been there so many times.
You know, you might meet someone, they'll walk out and then you and Brody be like, that guy has a jet. I'm like,
yeah, right.
Different level of wealth.
You met my friend. We got to have my friend Aaron Rechtenwald on the podcast for you because he's I actually went to school with Aaron, and he's a very, very successful construction guy. And there's a lot of big people.
It's just different levels, because you look on Instagram now and you think like what wealth is selling an online course or being one of these sales guys, and you got a nice car and you make $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And there's somebody out there that's spending $1 million a month on jet maintenance.
Dude, I'll never forget. So we did a deal one time where he wanted this. So in 2019, when COVID happened, right?
Yeah.
I was always into cars. So like cars, that was always my thing. I always developed good relationships where I could get something that I never had a Bugatti or something but I had Lambos, the Ferraris, stuff like that. Right.
When was your first like big breakthrough getting a car?
First break, right? So like I was always into like Mustangs. So like when I was coming up, my thing was like the movie Menace to Society.
Yeah.
Like if you had, because I'm originally from Beaver Falls, so like I was like a street kid at heart.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't like, I was a decent enough kid that I got out of that mentality.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a lot of good people around me that didn't let me get into that life.
Yeah.
You know, but Menace to Society, the Mustang, like the Fox body Mustang.
Yeah.
When he stole the wire wheels at the burger shop, you know, and then the biggest thing was that got me into cars was like the Maximas, the Nissan Maxima.
Oh yeah, they used to pimp those out back in the day.
If you had a Maxima, you were the man.
Did you used to watch the show? I think it was early 2000s with Exhibit, and they would
Pimp My Ride.
Pimp My Ride, bro.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet him by chance?
I actually know. I've met Ryan from West Coast Customs.
Okay.
I've known him for a long time. Deco is actually good friends with him.
Okay.
Now Ryan, he's one of the original people in the business.
Yeah.
Like him, there's a lot of people like Ryan from West Coast. You know, people like, I think that show kind of like blew him up.
Yeah.
But then it kind of made it kind of corny in a way too when they started doing goofy stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
put like a microwave in a van.
Right. Putting a microwave in it, whatever it was. It was just for TV, but it made him look like he kind of went like Hollywood when he did it.
Yeah.
Like Ryan from West Coast Customs, man. I mean, I don't know him too well. I just know him just because being in the business 25 years and you become successful, you develop a lot of like respect from like a lot of people you didn't even know that would respect you.
Yeah.
And there's people that like do, and he was one of them that like really, really like took off in the business.
Wow. Do people put wheels on like motorcycles?
I never got into motorcycles.
Okay.
I never got into motorcycles. This is another thing that I believe in. Like I only do one thing. That's wheels and tires. I don't get into brakes. I never got into like, no, dude, I don't even know how to check oil in a car.
Yeah.
Like for real. Like I literally have to ask. So Eric, that's why I say you always have people around you that are smarter than you.
Yeah.
And I always do.
Yeah.
Like everybody that around me is always smarter than me.
Yeah.
You know, because that is, you know, how you're going to make it.
Yeah, it's a life hack.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a life hack. Protects you. So what was, let me see here. What's the most expensive set of wheels you ever sold?
Oh my goodness. So like back in the day, whenever like when I'd say in early 2000s, like when the size was the thing.
Yeah.
It would go like, you know, 20s in the early 2000s, you were the man. Then it got like 22s, 24s, 26s came out in like, geez, I want to say like 2004, 2005. And then when they started doing like 28s, 30s, 32s, that's when it started getting expensive.
Yeah.
Because like, and then it was just, but that was back when the Hummer H2.
Yeah.
Because the Hummer H2 at the time was the only car that could like really.
Wasn't the Hummer Brody's first car?
Bro, the Hummer was Brody's first car. You know, did I ever tell you, so did you ever hear that that Hummer deal that we actually, my dad had to eat his words on that? Okay.
Why? What happened?
So actually the whole Hummer story was, Brody was like LeBron. Okay. So Brody was really quiet and we had a deal with him. So like back then, like if you were to become like an all conference football player as a freshman in high school, it Mars, like in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania has like, and you know, Florida also.
Yeah.
Florida, Texas.
Yeah.
You know,
incredible football.
Incredible football.
Yeah.
Okay. In Western Pennsylvania, they have some decent football too.
Yeah.
And Brody, we made a joke with Brody, okay, when he was a kid. So we said to him, because Brody and I have different moms.
Yeah.
Okay. And Brody lost his mom. She was 41 whenever she passed away. I was 18. Brody was 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Which was a very, very like hard time because like when I first moved with my dad, she was one of the people that like kind of like kept me away from like being like an idiot.
Yeah.
And like, hey, straighten up, you know? Well, I felt like, you know, Brody, like I always had to be hard on Brody because of the way she was on me with certain things.
Yeah.
Well, we made a deal with Brody with the Hummer. We said, hey, look, you know, you're a freshman. He was never going to become an all-conference player as a freshman, let alone like even play varsity.
Yeah.
We thought he would never even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, so we made him a deal that if he made all-conference as a freshman, me and my dad at the time, we were like basically, I was like raising Brody.
Yeah,
like, you
yeah,
know
yeah.
what I mean? Like he'd go to the gym with me. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't have like a college life. Like,
Yeah.
even though I played sports in college, I never got into drinking or anything like that through working. I never did because Brody was always there. Like anytime I turned around, any decision, if I jump off a bridge, he was going.
Yeah.
You know, like for real. Like he was actually going. But we made him a deal. We said, look, if you make all conference, we'll get you any car you want under $80,000. But it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Dude, I'll never forget. So SEMA is like, he had a pretty good year. Like he actually made varsity as a freshman.
Yeah.
Then started varsity as a freshman because the defensive end, like he played James Harrison's position.
Yeah.
You know? The defensive end got hurt. So like Brody kind of like moved in and he had nothing to lose. So you know what I mean? Like he just, and then at the time, like people watch film back then, they didn't really have a game plan for him because they'd focus on the other guy, you know? So Brody had a good season. Well, at the end of the year, I'm sitting at SEMA and it was like in November. That's when like the all conference thing comes out. Sure enough, my dad calls me. He's like, dude, we got a major problem. And I was like, what's the problem? He's like, Brody made all conference. And I was like, oh, no. So like he got a Hummer H2 as a sophomore in high school.
What a pimp.
Dude. And he didn't just get a Hummer H2. Like he had, at the time, this was in like 2007, he had a Hummer H2 that was like the anniversary. It was like a Carolina blue.
Oh, no.
And so then Deco Salane, so like I said, Deco, the guy from Giovanna.
Yeah.
He is the guy that like, he is the most loyal guy you could ever meet.
Yeah.
So like if you want to, you know, you always say loyalty becomes royalty.
Yeah.
You know, that's the guy. Like he basically took me to the next level.
Okay.
Okay. So when you're with him, he will make you do things that like nobody else around you can have.
Yeah.
Okay. So I remember when Brody got that Hummer, he didn't just have a Hummer H2. This was when Birdman came out with a song, I can't get your shine on or something. And he mentioned, so that was back when people were talking about sizes of wheels in their music videos. Birdman was the first one to talk about 25s.
Yeah.
It used to be 24, 26.
Yeah.
No one had a 25.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Giovanna did a 25 limited edition run for Birdman and did like for like a certain wheel size. And then Pirelli did the tire.
Yeah.
And it was like 30, 40 grand for a set of wheels, you know,
Wow.
because it was like 25s back then.
Yeah.
Deco sent Brody a set of wheels, 25s for his Hummer, in the face, in a fifth wheel on the back, okay? And then he not only did that, this is before people did, because chrome was the way you did it, okay? Because doing a black wheel wasn't a thing back then. But back then, if you had a wheel that had like a color to the face and it matched like the color of the car, you were like the man, okay? Deco sent Brody something that like even the rappers didn't have.
Wow.
He sent him a custom grill, like a Giovanna. So Deco actually turned Brody's Hummer into like a Giovanna edition Hummer H2.
Yeah.
Like he had a grill that was like almost like the strut grills that are like $30,000 just for a grill, you know, like on the front of the Hummers back then. So when he went to school, like he'd park in the teacher's lot, You
Yeah.
know? And that's when I always said, you know, like school, like I was just actually telling my girlfriend on the way before we came over here, like everybody always says, like, what's your biggest advice for like, you know, like doing, like, what do you want to do? I said, unless you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, you don't even need to be in school.
Yeah.
Like learn your ABCs,
Or maybe if you're playing sports, like Brody played football, that was fun.
Yeah, that was it. But honestly, get into sales, find somebody that you can be a mentor, like can be your mentor, and like just start from the bottom. There's no shortcut.
Yeah.
There is no shortcut. People think there's a shortcut. There's not a shortcut.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Brody.
Did he flip the Hummer?
No. So he got the Hummer. He had the Hummer through high school. And we had a deal then too. We tried to even get the Hummer off of him because we said, you know, like if you don't continue to play well or, you know, do good, then you lose. He actually ended up doing better.
Typical sales leader.
Yeah. Typical sales leader. You tell them that you're going to take something from them and then they just do better.
Yeah.
You know? So, but Brody's the same way now.
Oh, like 1,000%.
Brody just.
So what ended up happening with the Hummer?
He ended up keeping it through high school.
Okay.
And then, that was it. And then he got rid of it out of like before he went to college. And then he completely went the opposite way, right?
Did he get the Malibu?
That's what I'm saying. He went from one extreme to another.
Yeah.
Okay? So he goes from the Hummer. He goes from being the man in high school and being the man in college.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then you get out and then he gets a sales job.
Well, wait, what did he have in college or nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
Okay. So the Hummer went away.
Didn't he have a big chain now?
He did have a chain.
Yeah.
He got in a chain. Because I played basketball and I thought I was like Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
I thought I was like the white Allen
So
Iverson.
you had a chain.
I had the chain. I had the diamond earrings.
No, bro, there's no way. I got to see pictures of this.
I have pictures of it. I actually showed my girlfriend the other day. Like you could see the diamond earrings. I had my hair like.
You had like braids?
I didn't have braids. I had the frosted hair, like the frosted tips.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that was.
Oh my God, you got to bring that back.
Yeah, I couldn't bring that one back.
Oh my God, dude! If you did the chain,
I could. If
I promise you, if you did a chain and earrings, the wheel sales are going up.
Yeah, I couldn't do it though. I couldn't do it. Brody does the chain now. I can't do the chain. But Brody did the chain. But then he went from one extreme to another. So he went from the Hummer, then he got into sales. And my dad, we were always hard on Brody. So Brody went from that, and then he had to learn like the money situation.
Yeah.
You know? So Brody got out of school and Brody actually took a shot. Brody had a job offer for a big bank, like YMB Mellon.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, because Brody got his master's degree in like finance.
Yeah.
And he had a job at BNY Mellon, and I remember he took a chance and he was like, you know what? I remember him telling my dad, he came home and he told my dad, he's like, you know what? He actually did not show up at his job interview, okay? But it was like a slam dunk. It was like the second or third interview, okay? And I remember he didn't show up, and he said he's going into insurance sales. My dad almost put him through a wall.
No way.
Because we used to call my dad Big Frank.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, he was like intimidating to us.
Bro, me and Brody used to have this joke, we still do, of from American Gangster, where he goes, Shelby's gone, Frank.
Shelby's gone, Frank.
Shelby's gone,
from
Frank.
American Gangster.
Yeah,
he's
bro.
like, where's the Shelby at? Shelby's gone, Frank.
Shelby's gone, Frank.
It's like, Shelby's gone.
Shit. I can imagine Frank just losing a casket.
Yeah, he did. He said, you're going into sales. And my dad said, you know what? I'm not helping you out financially anymore.
Yeah.
My dad did say, because Brody's a good kid. So my dad said, listen, because Brody was like, you know, like 21, I think it was when he got out of school. My dad said, look, you know, I'm not going to kick you out of the house, you know, like, but, you know, like financially, like I'm not helping you with nothing. Like I'm not giving you even $40-50 a week for food like you did in school for us, you know? So Brody went and started into sales and he saved up his money, bought this $800, because I was into cars, you know? So I had a friend that owned this car lot that got him an $800 Chevy Malibu. Yeah. Okay. He drove the balls off that thing.
Oh my God.
Driving, because that was when you guys had to do
he let somebody wreck it.
Yeah, he let somebody wreck it.
He let like 3 people wreck it, actually.
3 people wreck it, yeah. But people look at him now and see like the McLaren, the Ferrari, like all the stuff he has now, the crib. And they don't see that.
They don't see
that.
So he's another one, when you reference me like locked in, he had to be even more locked in because of his personality type. I was extroverted.
Yeah,
Brody was an and still is an introvert. So for him to figure it out and be self-sustainable, because there's a lot of guys that just go out there and flex their money and be like, I'm hiring.
Yes.
Brody spent his first 3 years
like that.
Bro, he's still like that. And it's kind of like, maybe something that Frank instilled into you guys, where it's like, you can still get your hands on the wheels.
Well, I'm the polar opposite of Brody.
Yeah.
So Brody's like the quiet one. Like I'm the one that like always like the flashy one, joking around, like, like maybe biting off more than I can chew type thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if I made $100, I'd spend 1,000.
I'm the same way.
I'm the same way now.
And
if people sit there and tell you they're not, you're a liar.
They're a freaking liar.
They're
bro.
liars.
I really started when you talk about taking risk and gambling. And
I never gamble. I don't. That's one thing I don't do. I don't gamble. I don't.
I have this different take. I think we all gamble because with the risk that we take.
Okay, I do agree with that.
So like I tell people,
I'm saying gambling like at a casino.
I played slots
Gamble on yourself.
You gamble on yourself.
Right.
I played slots twice, I should say, with Bob Menery. He's a Nelk boy.
Yeah,
and
I remember you did the Nelk thing.
Yeah, bro. And so we play slots, and I asked Bob to do this podcast, meet him at some event down there. Shout out to my guy John Sarasani in Chicago. He introduced us, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll do it, but just hang around with me for tonight." And then we'll do it. We didn't end up doing this podcast till 3 a.m. He made me play slots, and I was like, I'm praying to God I don't have to lose all my money. I lost all my money playing these slots.
Yeah,
that I brought to Vegas. I think I was $5,000 in just in the first night, just on these slot machines. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm just blown out of my mind from like just being awake as long as I was. And I'm like, this is life. Like some people, everybody gambles. Some people just pick better games to play.
Believe me, I've went broke a million times,
bro. And that's what I'm literally sitting here thinking. I was like, some people are just like Brody's that in his sense that's a calculated gambler.
Yeah,
he does
that's what I'm saying.
Lose.
Brody does not lose.
He's like a Warren Buffett. He is not going to lose $1.
No, he doesn't. Brody saves his money.
Calculated with his relationships. He's super like some people could look at it as like risk adverse.
Yeah,
but I think he is calculated.
Yeah,
super calculated. Whereas guys like us, I'm a put it all on red. Yeah, and I'll blow this shit to hell. Yeah, and we'll figure it out.
And I'll keep going. Even when I know I'm wrong.
Like when I'm wrong, I'm cooked.
I'm cooked. But you know what? You deal with it.
You deal with it, dude.
But Brody, I don't feel like he ever loses because he's like watched both sides. But then he gets to watch me. But then sometimes there's like gamblers like us. So man, like I've had my highs too.
Yeah.
Sometimes
you hit Jeff Bezos says it this way. He's like, entrepreneurship is like baseball. The difference though is in baseball, you only get 3 attempts and then you strike out. Or if you do hit it big, you grand slam, you get a 4X. You know what I mean? You get 4 runs.
Right.
Business though, you step up to the plate. You can strike out. You can have 1,000 attempps.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all a matter of like what you're willing to lose. Because some people are like, I'm going to go broke. And what's that mean? Do you have a place like we're in America? I could go live with my mom.
Right.
I'm 26 years old. You think entrepreneurs haven't struck out and had to go live with their parents and build like I look at like Ray Kroc and all this shit and it's like, no, dude. You know what I mean? You step back up to the plate. It's all a matter of what are you willing to suffer and lose. And then if you hit it big, it might be 1,000x return.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you might just hit it out of the park. So the only way you don't is if you don't try. You don't try. You don't step up to that plate.
That's the biggest thing. And I think, so Michael Jordan, even though I respect LeBron.
He never compares to Jordan. I hate those people that try to tell me like.
Jordan, the biggest thing with Jordan that I respected is that he always said, you're always going to make 1,000% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
And like, that was my thing. Like I always took I never took a crazy like moment shot, but like, I always took a shot, but that's paid off a lot.
Yeah.
Because, like the business, having a nice house, being able to drive nice cars.
Yeah.
Like that's a good part of it. But the biggest thing is it's the people you meet.
The people you meet and the people you impact. That's one thing I give.
Yeah.
I've met so many people in the insurance space that have come and gone and that have just kind of been in it for themselves. But one thing that I always give Brody credit for is the people that he's impacted.
Yeah.
And a lot of them is just like kids that were helpless or hopeless. Like I wasn't helpless, but I was hopeless if I didn't run into that opportunity and
but
and
you
find Brody.
you had the drive of like, I always saw it in you. Like
But that drive was being pushed in the wrong direction. I was going to end up in jail, or because I was like, I'm going to get rich regardless. So it was going to be doing some illegal stuff.
Well, you know what though? Those people are like, look at 50 Cent.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the dude literally, he actually lived by that motto. Like he was either going to get rich or die trying.
Oh, literally.
He was.
Yeah.
And like, people can love him or hate him.
Yeah.
But like the dude, you know, he finds a way to make it. And that's the thing about like I said, having that security blanket, like these people that have businesses where they have investors and whatnot. Like, now there's businesses like in real estate guys and stuff. I have friends that are in the real estate business. You need to have investors to build portfolios and whatnot. So that's a different story. But like in like my business, if you need an investor to start like your business, you already lost.
I feel like if you're starting out and you need an investor,
it's
it's completely different than if you've already built something, you've proven, and then you're collecting investments. Because like, if you're starting out, bro, take the training wheels off, stop being a puss, and go build.
100%.
You know?
Dude, believe me, I fell on my face a million times.
Well, you start on your face. You just start here at ground zero.
But you know what, though? That's why right now, if you were to tell me right now, Chad, take everything. Take the cars, take the house, take the building, take the business. Everything's gone. Right? I wouldn't even be stressed. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't stressed. But like, I wouldn't.
But it's not like you've played that. You've played that image in your mind
so many times.
10 million times.
10 million. And I've done it. Probably 7 or 8 times.
But it's like, oh, we're cooked back to zero.
It's cooked back to zero. You know what?
The thing is you can lose the things, but you can't lose everything they put in here.
That's the thing.
And you can't lose. Typically, you can't lose everything in here. All the contacts you have calling up.
The biggest thing I always tell people, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to know. You never know who, like, you might be talking to somebody that's a nobody now. I remember a guy one time that I sold a set of, do you remember when 9/11 happened? Okay. I sold this guy a set of wheels back when 9/11 happened. It was like 2003. Okay. This is probably my best story of like people you never know. Okay. This guy, he was going to Carnegie Mellon. He was an Arabian dude. Okay. Arab. And this is when like you know, everybody,
super racist.
Everybody was super racist. You know, like everybody was. Okay, everybody was super racist because of the 9/11 thing. Once again, because of, you know, the government putting in our heads. Were you there? Did you see these people do it? No. Okay, I still have my thoughts on that thing. Okay. I still think we cooked ourselves to go there for the oil.
Bro, I have so many different theories. Okay. No, 1,000%. I have so many things. You listen to enough Joe Rogan, and you're like, that sounds like it might be right. I wasn't there.
I'm not going to sit there and accuse somebody. I'm not going to be racist towards this guy because I didn't see him take the plane down. I didn't see Osama bin Laden like do. I didn't see him do like. You showed me a video. But like, I wasn't there, so I'm not. That doesn't mean that it's not true. That just means that me, Chad Evanson, I don't hate the guy. Like, I don't hate people because I didn't see it happen.
Absolutely.
But anyways, the guy came into our shop, and he went to every other shop in Pittsburgh to buy a set of wheels for his car. Okay, and nobody would sell to him because everybody's being ignorant because of like back then, like everybody just hated those people. Okay. And you know what? I didn't care because I was just raised that way. You know, raised that like everybody was equal until they did something wrong.
Correct.
The dude comes in, buys a set of wheels for 4 or 5 years. He was going to Carnegie Mellon, so he was in school. I sold him 4 or 5 sets of wheels. We went to dinner, hung out, like just went to like, you know, whatever, like grab something to eat. Here, I started my own business. He went back to his country, whatever. Okay, right? I had no clue, just like let it go. Back in like 2017, I'm at the shop, you know, like, we call it the barber shop, and you never know who's going to walk in the door. Even my girlfriend always says, like, she stops in our days off because she's like, I never know who's going to walk in that door.
You literally never know, bro.
It could be a street killer or it could be a business guy. You know,
or a
like
Pittsburgh Steeler or something crazy, bro.
Dude, there's times that like Chris Letang, who's a good friend of mine, Marc-Andre Fleury, they will literally just be hanging out at the shop, and people will walk in and be like,
what the hell's going on?
But they're the most honest guys you'll ever meet. Willie Parker, a lot of those guys, right? So anyways, this guy, you know, like he walks into our shop, and I'm like, dude, I remember you. I was like, what are you doing back in Pittsburgh? He's like, well, when I was in school here, he's like, I invested in, you know, some properties. When I like went back home, he bought a couple rentals, like down in the city, he'd sell. And I was like, oh man, you know, like, so he's like, hey, I need a couple sets of wheels for a couple cars. I was like, are the cars here? He's like, no, they're over in Abu Dhabi. It's like, dude, I just buy the wheels over there. You're going to pay more in shipping.
Yeah, what's shipping like
Like
internationally?
$4 or $5 grand. You know what I mean? Just for the shipping. You know what I mean?
Yeesh.
So I was like, dude, I appreciate your loyalty to me, but just like go, buy them over there. Dude, he bought 4 or 5 sets of wheels for his Range Rovers. Okay, like he had Range Rovers for everybody in his family, and he had a Lamborghini. And I never asked him what he did because I just thought he was a good guy. I never asked. I just was glad to see he was successful,
Yeah.
So here he turns out, we're still friends. He's in the United Emirates, and he's like really high up in the United Emirates. And he's like, dude, he's like, if you ever want to come over to the Middle East, he's like, you let me know. And like, he means it. And we still like stay in touch on Instagram, and you never know. He's like, dude, if you come over here, I'll set you up in a hotel, like whatever you need to do. He's like, I don't care how much the shipping is.
Yeah.
He's like, when nobody else wanted to give me a chance and talk to me, you did. He's like, so now I want to spend all my money with you.
Wow.
So like, you never know.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
That reminds me of that one story you were telling me about a guy, was it like Big Adam or something, that went to Dubai and was spending some money on a nice watch, and someone told him was like,
Big Adam,
little money.
Yeah. So, but Adam, he's one of my biggest customers. Okay.
Yeah.
And to this day, he's one of the biggest hearted people.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we all like Adam's like me. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm the type of way where, there's times that I do think that I'm like a hot shot. I just have that personality.
Yeah.
But that was like that Allen Iverson was my guy.
Yeah.
Like Jordan was got me into sports, but then Allen Iverson, like
he would do the step overs, right?
Yeah,
he would step over.
Allen Iverson's thing was he wasn't afraid to step out of the box. And show people his personality.
Bro, what was that interview that one time? I used to play it when he was making fun of practice. He's like, practice. We ain't got to do practice.
You're right. But that was the thing. Like I think though, if Allen Iverson would have the chance to do that interview again, he would take that back.
1,000%.
Because 100%. I don't care what anybody says. I sold him one set of wheels, but I never met him personally.
Wow.
Okay. I just did it through like a third party. But I assure you, people that are that successful, he didn't get there by not practicing.
He didn't just wake up.
So and Allen Iverson, I assure you, he's like Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Those dudes.
Bro, I bumped into him last week.
Dude,
Floyd Mayweather.
There's nobody that outworks that dude.
Yeah.
You can love him, you can hate him, you can call him every name in the book.
Yeah.
But the numbers, that's the one guy that I always listen to. He always says, listen, man, you could, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
Okay. And everybody can say what they want about Floyd Mayweather, but that dude's work ethic.
He's a nice guy.
I'm sure.
He was just in the Brickell City Mall. I don't know how close he lives down here.
Well, that's the thing. Like everybody says he's broke now and all this stuff. That's none of my business.
I don't know. He had a posse with him.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, a guy like that, and that's the thing. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
When you build something and you network yourself well,
you don't even need money.
Me personally, I'll never be broke.
Yeah.
Like it's actually funny, and I'll say this, like I just got out of something and somebody tried to say that I went broke. I'll never be broke.
Yeah.
Okay, because the networking that you have with people, you just make a call.
Yeah.
You literally just make a call and say, hey, listen, dude, it's actually crazy now. Like, and I'm a nobody compared to like these people.
Oh yeah.
Like Wes Watsons and people like that. I don't know them, but I'm a nobody to those people.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that even like a low level person like me, okay, like I just built myself up to be like people say like, oh, dude, I don't even have to go to the bank. Like when I wanted a new car last week, I didn't even apply for it. Like my bank was like, hey, just come in and get a check.
What car did you get?
A new Bentley.
No.
I
gotta look it up. What the hell does it look like?
It's a super sport. Okay. There's only like 250.
What do I type in? 2026 or
no. I can't afford that.
2025?
No. It's a 2018 super sport.
2018.
But but now I have the house. I had to calm down. I got away from the Ferraris and stuff.
That's what I was saying. So what did you just get rid of? Didn't you have a Ferrari? Was your last car Ferrari?
Yeah, Ferrari, the 488. I bought that brand new.
That's
and
sick.
then I had the G60.
What color? What are you doing to the Super Sport? Oh,
Just wheels.
This is nice. You're just gonna do wheels?
Yeah.
And just Giovanna's. You'll slap Giovanna's on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing. You'll never be broke.
Yeah.
Like you literally could pick up a phone right now and be like, hey, like I came down here just to get away for a weekend. And I could call you up and we could do a podcast. And we could do whatever. You're never, if you network with the right people, your networking is your net worth.
Literally.
Okay. So you could literally have $5 in your pocket, but be worth billions because of like your network.
That's how some of these influencers rock and live. I remember just being with Bob, and he would just go up to this guy, and he'd give him money, and this guy, and like this guy take care of this, and you don't got to worry about this. And it's like, because money in the grand scheme of things, it's
just paper.
It's just paper that we decided to say is worth money. It's like us looking at this cup and saying this is going to be our new currency.
Okay, that's the new currency. If I trade you this cup for those shoes, that's the way of getting shoes.
Yeah, bro. Like
money is just paper. It's not real.
It's not even real.
That's the thing. Like that's why I don't care. Like I'll blow money. I will literally blow every last dollar. Like Brody and I are polar opposites. Brody will save everything. I will literally blow everything.
Yeah, it's blown.
I will,
it's already
but you know
gone.
what though? I'll risk on myself.
Yeah.
I don't gamble. I'll gamble on myself. Buy inventory.
Yeah.
Buy stuff
I feel like I've
property.
made good gambles. You know what I mean? I feel like they're risky gambles, and like maybe the return hasn't been immediate, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna get the return.
Right.
It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow or next year, but I'm gonna get the return.
You're always gonna get the return. But the biggest thing is like taking care of people, doing right by people, and like I said,
and own it up when you make
I do it all the time. Believe me. I make a lot of them.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people, if you sit there and say that you're perfect and everybody wants to talk about the good times.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about the bad times. That's the biggest thing. Like, and you want to know something? That's how I got so many clients now. My client list is so big because believe me, not all those clients in my phone I did right. Not that I did them wrong. It's just that
you made a mistake. You made a mistake.
You own up to it. The biggest thing is like you take accountability. Nobody wants to take accountability.
Yeah.
Okay. If you take accountability for it. Yeah, you got to swallow your pill and you got to like maybe eat some money or whatever, but you make some money in the long run. Yeah. But dude, I'll tell you what, it's been a ride.
Absolute ride.
It's been an absolute ride.
And I feel like we're just getting started.
But if I died tomorrow, you're young.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be 43 next week.
You're young too, bro.
And I'm like, dude, I remember
Ray Kroc didn't start until like his 50s.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like Colonel Sanders was like 90,000 years old before he started.
90,000? What do you Colonel Sanders.
You know what I mean?
What was that, Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Yeah.
Jesus God.
Anytime I feel like I'm going to fail, I'm like, you know what? Colonel Sanders didn't start till 90. I'm good.
Yeah.
We'll figure this shit out.
But that's the biggest thing. My advice for people is the last thing I would do if you were starting in business is just, because if you fail yourself, you can get out of it.
Yeah.
If you fail and you have investors, now you
minimize cash and shit like you're taking.
Minimize that risk.
Yeah.
Because like here's the thing, if I fail today, there's nobody else to blame but myself.
Yeah, facts.
If there's, if people that I know that they wanted to act like hot shots just because they wanted to have a nice building or a nice car to drive and they had like investors, that's no good because
that's
like
no bueno.
Now, not only did you screw yourself, but that person that was an investor, obviously they did something right in life because they had the money to invest in you.
Correct.
What if you needed to call them for a job?
Yeah.
But you screwed this guy now because you
minimize burning bridges.
Right.
That's another thing. You never know if you got to go back across that bridge.
You never know.
And it's just not worth the friction. I've learned just over the years, like it's not worth the friction if I could just avoid war.
I'm doing the same thing now. Like even in personal life, you go through, whether it be breakups in life or whatever you do, there's no reason to have it.
I don't want the war.
I don't want it either.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it.
Because war, like even it's like, oh man, I won the war. It just comes with casualty. No matter if it doesn't come with casualty, then it comes with like fatigue.
Right.
I don't want more fatigue.
The one thing I'm going to tell you is like, and I'll never get into the politic thing, but the biggest thing that I will listen to with Trump,
I get into the politics.
I do too, but I was at the shoot.
Just start wearing Trump gear everywhere.
They literally shot over me.
Yeah.
So like, and I got the video.
Yeah.
So like, and then I went.
You were there when
dude. We'll play it right now. I got the video. They literally shot over us. My friend.
Did you hit the ground immediately?
I got the video. Okay. Not only did I hit the ground, but then. You
burrowed.
My friend. Okay. And here's the thing. Everybody there can act like a tough guy. Okay. Like I consider myself decent. I don't consider myself like, John Jones, but I consider myself like if somebody, pressed into my space, I defend myself. Right.
Yeah.
But when bullets are flying and stuff like that, it's totally different feeling.
Correct.
Okay. I have a friend who you need to have on the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay? That I assure you that one day whether he's going to be the governor, a senator, his name's Rico Elmore. Okay.
Yeah.
He's a black guy out of Beaver County.
Yeah.
Okay. And he, when the guy got shot in the head, okay, so he spoke before Trump at the rally.
Wow.
He's the only reason why I went to the rally.
Wow.
Because I honestly don't really care.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like listen, I just don't like to like I know my feelings on what side I voted
Correct.
for.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of clients and a lot of customers that voted for the other side that I don't want to disrespect them.
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like I'm not going to disrespect people and their opinions.
Correct.
You know, but my friend Rico came to the shop the day before that shooting, and he said, "Hey, Chad, like, will you and Eric come to the rally tomorrow? I'm speaking before Trump."
Wow.
I said, "Yeah, man, like whatever you need, I'm there."
Yeah.
So like I only strictly went to like support him.
Wow.
He spoke right before Trump. And then here's how it goes. Right after he spoke, it was like 99 degrees that day.
Yeah.
Okay? He spoke and I was like, dude, I don't need to be an idiot. Dude, there was 10 million people there.
Yeah.
I think realistically it was like, 15, 20,000.
Yeah.
Because the second rally I was at, I went there because we actually got to meet him.
Wow.
Okay. So, my buddy Rico spoke, and I was like, Eric and I looked at each other. We're like, we're getting out of here. We're not dealing with this heat anymore.
Yeah.
So after Rico spoke, I texted him. He came off the stage and met me along the fence.
Yeah.
Along the fence line. Okay. So when he meets me along the fence line, I was like, hey man, you did a hell of a job. Like, dude, I'm so happy for you. Cause you always want to support your friends.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, he goes back up, dude, within 2 minutes into Trump going on there, that's when the shots rang, boom, boom, boom. Okay. Well, this is what I'm trying to say. Like, we could all act like we're tough, but whenever shots are fine, dude, this dude has the biggest set of balls out of any. You need to have him on the podcast.
Wow.
So he's the dude, and you can look this up. Okay. When the guy got shot in the head, okay, the Corey Copen comparator,
Yeah.
okay, when he gets shot, okay, and even his family and everybody, they don't know what to do, and the bullets are still flying. Rico, you can watch him. He runs. Now, he doesn't know this dude. It isn't like it's me and you and we're friends and I see you get shot. I'm like, if I see if somebody just randomly gets shot,
You're hitting the floor, bro.
I'm hitting the floor.
Yeah.
This dude ran straight into bullets, okay, and ripped his tie off and tourniqueted the guy's head because he got shot in the head.
Yeah.
He was like, unfortunately, I don't think he had a shot,
Yeah.
but Rico tourniqueted his head and stayed there, giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation as the bullets were still flying.
Wow.
Okay? And like, to me, that dude's got the biggest set of balls.
Biggest set of balls.
Now, he was a military guy.
Yeah.
But that dude,
Insane.
And now that's the reason why we went to the inauguration. We went just to support him.
Yeah.
And there's some things that Trump say that are funny.
Yeah.
But like, I mainly go to support my friend.
Yeah.
But that was an
insane.
incident, man. That shooting changed my life.
Yeah.
Cause like that was something that I was like, man, even when he said after that, like, like the war, like, dude, and here's the deal. I don't care what anybody says. Who pulled that trigger.
Oh, 1,000%.
This kid from whatever, because we're from there. This kid from Bethel Park, he didn't just randomly wake up that day and be like,
No.
I want to kill this guy.
Yeah, no,
Okay?
not at all.
That
And the
dude-
fact that there's not been any additional, if it was the other way around,
if it was the other way around,
there would have
bro,
been so much
listen.
research, DNA tests, reveal this
right,
and this,
100%.
that, and the other.
Yeah,
so,
no, we're probably,
yeah.
but
Is that Nolak?
yeah,
He
Jared.
hit me up. He said he's going to come get on the pod.
Yeah, Jared's a great guy.
Yeah, Jared's cool.
Jared's a great guy. He's very, 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 very good. And very, very smart.
Last thing we'll wrap up with.
Yeah.
Could we go all day?
Yeah.
I don't even realize it's been an hour and 10 minutes. Was there any new good food out there in Wexford? I used to eat it.
Dude,
Napa
I'm
all
the worst
time.
eater in the world.
Yeah, I love food. So
I
I'm
know.
sitting here
I
thinking,
love
like,
food, but I love the wrong food.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, I love pizza, tacos,
Yeah.
meatballs.
Yeah. The meatballs at was it El Pizziola?
Ella Pizza. I like Elia. Elia's really good.
Is it new?
Man. Elia's really good. So when you come back up there, it's right next to El Pizziola.
Yeah.
Elia.
Have I ever been there, or is it new?
Dimitri and Yanni, they're great guys. They're
Yeah.
good friends of ours. Dude, it's so good.
Yeah?
It's like a Greek restaurant.
Is that your favorite place right
That's
now?
my favorite place. That
When
and
did
there's
that open?
It's been there it used to be called Max.
Okay.
And it was there for a while, but then
Okay.
they took it over. He owns a couple other restaurants, but There's that. There's like some like really small places.
What's that building that's in front of El Pizzola that they had made into a taco shop for a little bit, a Mexican?
That's it.
Is it still a Mexican place?
No, that's Elia now.
Now it's Elliot. Remember, it was a Mexican place.
Yeah, it was a Mexican place.
And it didn't work.
Literally lasted like 35 seconds.
Yeah,
it was terrible.
Me and Brody and Katie went there once, and it was cooked.
Yeah, it was cooked.
We were like, this place sucks.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Who's got the hardest car in Wexford right now?
Dude, I'm so out of cars now. I'm just more into like
Jets.
Jets? No, I didn't have a jet yet. Now that's the guy you got to get on here.
That's
Aaron Rechtenwald. You got to get on here because
I got this new theory where like for mentorship, if you don't got a jet, I'm not taking your advice.
Bro, I agree.
I'm trying to expedite my level of success.
Show me like I have a couple guys that I know that say they have jets. It's their investors' jets.
Oh shit!
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
like
I guess
this
you can
dude,
pull that one.
Like Aaron Rechtenwald,
I heard you can finance jets, kind of like boats.
Listen, you can. But Aaron Rechtenwald, he's a guy who's he has a big construction company.
Yeah,
the one that's in Pittsburgh. He's my age. We went to school together. I have a lot of respect for Aaron, and then his like right hand guy Donnie. They're just great.
And
people.
It ain't like a Cessna. He got a jet.
No, he got a jet.
Yeah,
because that was the thing. He let me. You
went to the Heat game, right?
Yeah, I did several things.
Yeah.
So he actually, when you couldn't get the G63 back in 2019, so he was my friend. I bought it like you couldn't get it. So I had a connection with Mercedes. I bought it. And I was like, you know what? I honestly was like, I didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
But they were going for like $300,000. They were going for double of what they were because you couldn't get them.
Crazy.
So my buddy Aaron was like, dude, Chad, I need to have this car. And I was like, I really don't care. Like, you're my boy. Like, if you want it. And then everybody's like, dude, you got even the girl I was dating at the time was like, oh, you got to sell it for $250,000. I was like, dude, I'm not charging my friend $250,000.
Especially
she's like, it's business. I was like, but here's the deal.
You get way more value.
I got way more value from the relationship that I have with Aaron.
Yeah.
Okay. My friend Aaron.
That's a life lesson the young cats got to listen to.
These young kids, they don't understand that.
Because they want that quick dollar.
They want that quick dollar.
Yeah.
Aaron knew that I could have tried to sell it to him for more. Aaron was like, hey, listen, Chad, I'm going to give you a fair offer. He gave me an offer that was like $5-10 over what I paid for it, which it wasn't 150.
Yeah.
But he said, hey, you know what, Chad? I'll tell you what. I own my own jet. I had 20 hours or something on his jet. Okay. And like that was a life-changing experience. Dude. And here's the deal with this day. Like anytime, like listen, I don't have the kind of money to do that, but like I have that opportunity. Like if I ever needed something right now, I could call him right now and be like, hey man, listen, my mom or some family member sick and I got to get out of town. Like I need to get there real quick. Dude, that dude would do anything for you.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing, nobody understands. But that's an experience. Like the jet thing's an experience.
How many of your clients got jets? Definitely a couple.
I mean, there's two, but one that's really, really his.
Yeah.
Like Aaron's is like his own. Like,
wow.
Aaron Rechtenwald, you got to have on it because he's very, very quiet.
I was gonna say some of these guys.
You never know. You never know.
That's the thing we will really end with is what I'm finding is the guys with more and more money are more and more quiet.
Correct.
And it seems like the guys with less and less money are like, especially with more so with media, are more and more like, look at all my money, look at all my money. But the guys that have a stupid amount of money,
I'm not saying that those guys like the media guys and even someone like me, like I'm flashy, but like, listen, I don't got like there's dudes that like that got it, and like they don't. You never know.
You wouldn't know, bro.
Never know it.
You wouldn't know.
But like Aaron, like he's very, very humble.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something. He's one of those guys that can make these guys make Philly that big
or disappear.
Yeah, like no, it's not even that. I mean, there's a lot of things that with him, like he built his own thing.
Yeah,
but he like there's a lot of guys that are like that. That if they really wanted to make these guys that think they're being ballers. Like that's the word they say. Like if they think they're balling out. Like back in the day.
What's that song? Baller, shot caller.
Yeah, like man. Back in the day. Like those dudes can really make you feel this big.
Oh my god, I can't imagine. Let's go.
But that's it, man.
All right, well, that's another podcast. Adversity Kings Wheel Connection.
Thanks for having me,
man. Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Yeah, it was great.
This was fun. We're gonna have to do another one. We're gonna have to bring
We're gonna get Brody,
Eric,
Aaron Rechtenwald. You got to get on here. Alex Rada,
dude. I want to get all these guys
because Alex Rada, that's the big one.
Yeah.
When he came over here, he's over in Georgia. The guy from Augusta. You want to get him.
Yeah.
So he ended up. That's another thing. All the people I met. Alex, he was the one that got me to take my shot when he first came over here. He was in Romania.
Yeah.
He was fighting a civil war there. Okay, his family swam across this river to their freedom.
Christ.
Okay, and then he came over here, and they had to start their own way.
Yeah.
And like, you want to talk about somebody with balls, like,
Yeah.
you know,
I just learned how to swim.
yeah.
I'm
barely
kidding.
know, so-
I'll make them laugh. All right, guys. That's it. Peace.